Yourself.
Oh, not too bad. You wanted to weigh in on the Clayton Miller case. Do you think the Justice Minister should be sitting down with his family?
I do indeed, sir. It was myself who initiated the petition that you're referring to.
Oh, well, isn't that handy, Steve? Thank you.
Um,
I
I,
appreciate the phone call.
well, I
What?
appreciate very much that you folks pay attention to Clayton's case because there are not that many out there that do these days.
And, we've seen 3 reports now, Steve, that have cleared police wrongdoing. Last time it was lawyer Ray Wagner that was involved. What specific answers are the family looking for here, Steve?
Well, if I got to back you up a little bit on that one. To
Yep,
begin with,
of course.
Ray has never said anything that clears the police in any way.
Oh, no, I just meant that he was involved last time, that's all.
What happened last time was that Ray announced to the world, and presented to the world a 1-hour interview with a gentleman by the name of Brian McDonald, who has been a 38-year member of Cape Breton Ground Search and Rescue and one of the earliest members of the club, who came forward recently and gave Ray an interview in which he described the details of the search that he coordinated on Saturday, May 5th, 1990, at the request of the chief of the New Waterford Police Department. The real problem is that after that information became public, it was completely ignored by the former director of Sirt. Truth of the matter is, as far as the Miller family are concerned, Sirt really had no involvement, no reasonable, logical reason to get involved in Clayton's case because it happened long before they were established. And when Mr. McDonald spoke with the Cape Breton Regional Police Officer, who back in the day was a New Waterford Police member, after he spoke with him, he accepted his word as truth and factual, and that was in early December of 2014. Mr. McDonald released his report in April of 2015. So we all kind of wonder why he was still involved in any manner after the early December when he spoke with that officer. If he had concluded at that time that officer was speaking the truth and that there was nothing to this, we wonder why he was involved for as many more months as he was after that.
But I also get the sense, Steve, that you don't feel like this investigation was ever given a fair shake by Sirt.
I know for a fact that there has never been any proper, unbiased, transparent investigation of Clayton Miller's case. And the reason that I know that is because since a little over 2 years now, I have studied every bit of available material on Clayton's case. And I have absolutely no horse in this race, Andrew. I never knew the Millers. Coming up on November 19th, it'll be 3 years since I met the Millers. I never knew them. I never knew anything about this case. Not connected to New Waterford or people from New Waterford. I just got interested in reading into some of the details of the case and was interested enough by the time the investigations by Dr. Bose and then Ron McDonald and Sirt were announced that it was clear to me that obviously these people who were highly trained and qualified would look into this and see the same thing that people have been seeing for, at that time, 25 years, which is there are major, very serious inconsistencies in the testimony of police back from the fatality inquiry in 1990, in the medical reports, in the re-autopsy report. It's mind-boggling. And I personally am a retired carpenter. I'm not qualified to even be an investigator, and I don't claim to be an investigator. What I claim is that for 2 years I have examined all of the material in Clayton's case, and it is possibly criminally heavily redacted. The redaction in the files in Clayton's case is beyond anything I can imagine. There are hundreds of pages in Clayton's files from the RCMP that are blank. I think that the redaction program, and I don't know anything about legal things. I'm not a legal guy. I'm just a logical thinker who has helped the family. But my understanding of the redaction process is that it's meant to take out personal information, people's names and addresses and phone numbers, email,
right.
That type of thing. In this case, it's the elimination of the questions that were asked and the answers that were given and everything that goes with it. Anyway, my point is that I'm not an investigator, but having had access to that from the Miller family and Clayton's file, the RCMP file on Clayton's case is over 17,000 pages. By the time you add in the Cape Breton Regional Police files and the Nova Scotia Health Authority files, it's over 20,000 pages. And it may be that I am the one who knows the most about what's in that file, because I know that none of the investigators who have claimed to investigate have spent that much time sifting through what's in there. And after sifting through what's in there, I've come up with approximately 1,500 to 2,000 pages, which we've cataloged and compiled in binders. And every bit of that information points to something other than the official story. I don't make any claims as to who did what to Clayton. I have no idea about that. I wasn't there, and I don't claim to know. But what I do know as most definite fact is there is information in those files that shows, without doubt, that what is being told to the public is not the actual story of what happened that weekend.
And what I'm about to ask you, it's obviously pure speculation, but in terms of, you mentioned that, police have been unwilling to kind of give this a fair shake, but why do you believe, after all you've been looking at this case, why do you think it's never been properly looked at in your belief? I think it's fair to say, police officers and the like, they get into policing because they have a sense of justice and what have you. Why do you think this case has been overlooked?
That would be speculation on my part, and only speculation. But it's my belief that Clayton died in police custody. I have no idea whether the police did anything that led to
and we have.
Death. However, information in the files indicates that Clayton received a very bad beating that night. And that beating didn't come from the police. Before the police got a hold of Clayton, it appears that Clayton was badly beaten by 2 or 3 other people. But by the time the police got a hold of Clayton, he was already in very bad shape. And at that time, the New Waterford police were known for brutality, based on what I've read through the records and the fact that there was investigations into that back in the day. When the RCMP investigated Clayton's case, they claimed to investigate Clayton's case in 1991. They weren't specifically investigating Clayton's case. They were investigating the claims against the New Waterford Police Department, and Clayton's case fell under that umbrella. I think that it's quite probably because of the fact that Clayton died in the custody of police that it was covered up back then, and because it was covered up back then, it has to continue to be covered up today. To take the cover off it today and let loose what's been contained for this long is going to be a hell of a Pandora's box for a lot of different people in a lot of different levels.
And again,
it will include local police, it will include the RCMP, it will include local government, provincial government, and federal government. It will involve medical people. It's going to be a hell of a scene when it blows, and it's going to blow. There's too much information in those files that has been withheld, and another very important part of this, Andrew, is the fact that since those 2 reports were released in 2015 by Sirt and Dr. Bose, the Millers have never ever been given a chance to sit down with anybody from the government and discuss what's in those reports. At the time when they were given the reports, they were told by Sirt and Dr. Bose that they were coming to Sydney and they were going to release the reports, and that on that particular date, I believe it was April 15th, 2015, they were coming to Sydney, release the reports, and there was going to have a meeting with the family that day if the family wanted to meet with them. When the family heard that, they responded that day would not work for them because their lawyer, Ray Wagner, was out of the country that day. And they were told that it was going to be that day or no day. If they wanted a meeting with those people, it was going to be that day. So in order to carry on things in a smooth manner, they got a hold of Ray's daughter, who was also Ray Wagner's daughter, who was also a lawyer, and she went in his place. The conversations that took place that day were recorded by Mr. McDonald on a digital recorder on top of on the table, and in recent weeks, he has made claims regarding conversations that took place during the two meetings that they had with the Miller family in 2015, and in an effort to straighten out exactly what was and wasn't said that day, because the Millers dispute much of what he claims, and he refuses to hand over the recordings of those conversations. The Millers, through their lawyer, requested that he turn those over, and his response was that it was too expensive to have copies created of those recordings for the Millers. At which point, the Wagner's office volunteered to pay for the cost of that expense. Now, how do you believe that it is less expensive? Oh no, sorry, I'm going to get ahead of myself. Instead of providing a recording of the conversation, he offered a transcript of the conversation. Now, is there any possible way that it is less expensive to engage a transcription service to take that recording and transfer it to paper than it would be to email a digital recording that he had made to Ray Wagner or the Miller family?
Yeah, I can't say expertly so, but I would assume it'd be easier for a digital copy.
It doesn't cost much to send somebody a digital recording, that's for sure. And
just,
it certainly does. If you're going to hire someone to write out a transcript, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more for that than it is to have someone, it's basically email and a digital file.
And
so when you start looking at things like this, he refused to even interview Brian McDonald from Search and Rescue. Not only did he refuse to interview him, he never got a hold of Ray Wagner's office to view the entire interview, which is almost 1 full hour in length. The first half hour is Mr. McDonald explaining his qualifications, and the second half hour is he gave very detailed explanation of the search that was carried out. Oh, by the way, before we run out of time, and I want to get this in, that the petition that we've started is it's through change.org online.
That was actually my next question.
And it's the title of it is Nova Scotia Justice Minister, please meet with the parents of Clayton Miller for at least 1 hour. For those that want to go on and support the petition, or if you don't want to support the petition but want to become informed, there's a link on the petition to the interview by Brian McDonald. And if any of your listeners would care to watch the interview for themselves, then they can come to their own conclusions whether Brian McDonald is confused or mixed up or whether the search ever took place. They could do so. And they could also, if they're interested, read the letter that's attached to it that I wrote out to the Justice Minister that we're kind of hoping to get some response with.
And just somewhat quickly here, Steve, because we are running out of time, but what was the final push, genesis for you to put up this petition?
Well, he's refusing to meet with the family. Nobody has. One of the worst things, to me, it's when the reports were released back in April of 2015. That day, because Ray Wagner wasn't present, Dr. Bose and Mr. McDonald told the Millers, we'll meet again in Halifax next Tuesday. I believe it was a Tuesday. And in the meantime, you can digest what's in the reports and go over it and find out what you think of it. And then Ray will be back in the country, and we'll get together in Halifax and have a meeting again. Well, later that day, I believe it was on Rick Howe's program, Bose and McDonald appeared and told the world that as a result of Maureen Miller at some point mentioning the possibility of a lawsuit in the future, they had been advised by their legal experts to have no further communication with the Miller family. As a result, since April of 2015, no one from the government has given the Millers 5 minutes to sit down and discuss those two reports.
And hence
both those reports are so filled with inaccuracies, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And if people want to check on the petition at change.org, they can see some of the details of that. I don't want to step on toes too much here, Andrew, because Rick Howe called me earlier, and he wants me to come on his program on Thursday morning at 9:30. But the main reason I called in this afternoon was in the hopes that maybe people in the meantime might take a look at that petition and some of the information that's on there.
And I got to run now, Steve, but thank you so much for the phone call. I appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate your network's interest in the case and the fact that you do help us to get the word out there, Andrew. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Steve. Got to go. That wraps up our open hour. Going to take a quick break for the news, and then on the other side, going to chat with Captain Ashley Collette of the Canadian Armed Forces.